Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, here for a brief introduction before tonight's very special episode. Guys, if you're here with us, we hope you enjoy spending time with us. If you're new, we hope that you will. Please hit subscribe, and if you could be so kind, please leave us a rating and review wherever you find the pod, especially if that happens to be Apple Podcast app. A quick 5 stars, a quick sentence or two about why you enjoy spending time with the show helps us out enormously, helps us find those new listeners that we covet. The only thing we seek is the praise of others. Never mind, that's not important, but please leave those rating and reviews. You can follow our and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. We have some new projects there that we're working on, especially in this upcoming year. It should be a good time. Find us on all the social media that you're on. Also, you can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, with your suggestions for movies you'd like to hear covered, guest double features, all that good stuff. You still have time, in fact, to give us your selection for our December stocking stuffer event. We have enough movies, but if you have an amazing suggestion, you could still bump off 1 or 2 of the week and take your place among the stocking stuffed. So get at us. You have to do that by probably Monday. And if you're good enough, we'll bring it into the fold. All right, guys, tonight, I forgot. Before we get going any further, you can find our TeePublic link on any of our social media if you want to buy some Film Alchemist gear. The shirts are amazing. I recommend the Tri-Cotton Blend. Also, if you're looking for gift ideas, why not give your friends and their significant others the gift of a smooth, clean, properly hygienized, hygienic, that's the word, hygienic genitals for this Christmas. That's right, Manscaped has you covered. Go to manscaped.com. They have a wide array of grooming accoutrement. You can get underwear that are game-changing. I'm not kidding you on that. Ball deodorant, trimmers, all the things you'll need to be properly smooth as you jettison back to the origin of our species. You don't want to stop at that hairy man phase. You want to go back to that primordial, silky smooth whirlpool phase. That'll make sense soon. When you do check out at Manscaped, make sure to use our code FILM for 20% off and free shipping. We love partnering with Manscaped. The products are amazing. You will be thanked by friends and their loved ones. You should get one for yourself. It's all good stuff. Get on that. All right, guys, tonight we are joined by writer and director Andrew Merrill. Now, we were introduced to him by our friend Josh Lobo, he of I Trapped the Devil fame. Make sure you go out and rent and buy that movie. It is awesome. Josh told us how great Andrew was, and that Andrew had made a movie called Rot, which you can also buy or rent on Amazon Instant Video. And as Andrew reminded us, tell people that it's very important when they buy Rot to make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. So do that for Rot, Josh's movie, I Trapped the Devil, all that. So on Josh's recommendation, we reached out to Andrew, and he blew us away. He's such a funny, sharp, just kind. He has an infectious joy that I loved. It was a blast to dig through the many, many layers and meanings of altered states. That's right, William Hurt getting into the sensory deprivation tank. I don't know how much sensory he had because he pretended his wife and kids didn't exist. Neither here nor there. It's one rich man's journey through drugs, all the way back to Harry 8-Man at the zoo, to Whirlpool, to some kind of whatever else, right? There's a lot to unpack in Altered States. It is a visually stunning, wild Ken Russell adventure, and we could not have been happier than to have Andrew along with us on this journey. I mean, again, just one of those guys that so far exceeds your expectations of him. Hopefully he'll be back. Make sure, guys, to rent and buy his movie Rot on Amazon Instant Video. We will be covering that in our next episode. And believe me, you're going to want to buy it because it's one of those movies you're going to want to watch a couple times to make sure to take apart. It's a very interesting film. So yeah, without further ado, here is Altered States with our friend Andrew Merrill. All right, guys, here we go. Tonight, joined on this special episode to discuss an awesome movie, Altered States. I knew our paths would cross with this movie eventually. Joined tonight by the director of a movie that we'll be covering next week, Rot. Andrew Merrill, welcome to the Film Alchemist.
Woo! Woo!
That's the kind of high energy
That's
I've been
already
waiting
the most
for.
enthusiasm we've had on this show.
All right, Andrew.
For having me.
Yeah, of course, man. So we watched Rot, your movie. Everyone go check out Rot. Again, we'll be covering it next week. We adored it. So we got to talking. Would you like to introduce Altered States and why you thought this would be an awesome movie to cover tonight?
You know, I would. I definitely did not think about how crazy this movie was when I'm like, oh, I have to like probably do a synopsis of this, and I do not want to do a synopsis of this movie. Okay, I'm gonna try, and I've got IMDb up for the names.
Okay.
Okay, basically all I need to do is the synopsis is this is a Ken Russell movie.
Sure.
That satisfies the requirement.
That'll get you there, yeah.
William Hurt is a scientist, and they're studying schizophrenia, and they're using a sensory deprivation tank to kind of break down your consciousness, from what I understood. And
Okay.
basically from the get-go, William Hurt's like, oh, me likey this. I like sensory deprivation tanks. I like out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
And he's like one of those guys that he's just one-track mind. Like, he's like, this is what I'm doing. And basically everything else in his life takes a backseat to his research.
Yeah.
And one of the students at the school he works at, so he's Eddie. He meets Emily. They end up getting married, and then almost immediately, like, hard cuts to 7 years later, and they're almost getting a divorce because he's a terrible husband and father.
I think that was filed in my notes as the least shocking plot reveal of all time. I like their meet cute at the hospital, though, where she's just like, damn it, getting married's the right thing. I can't remember exactly how she phrases it, but she's like, I just want it, right? So I think she refers to, let me see, I actually think I wrote it down, right? She's like, when we're making love, I feel like I'm being harpooned by a raging monk who's receiving God. ... So let's get married. And then he just walks out after he ignores her, just blows her off. He walks out in the hallway and he's like, I mean, fine, if it means that much to you, I guess we're getting married. I'll probably never do better than you, maybe. And I was like, oh, that's adorable.
He's very clinical. And the whole audience is going, red flags! Red flags!
Actually wrote in my notes, that proposal, we all wish it could be that clinical. Like, hey,
Yeah.
clearly this is probably going to work for a while, so marriage? Why not? You know?
Let's go in this with realistic stakes. I'd give us a 5% chance. But hey.
It lasted 7 years is actually pretty, like, sex with him must be incredible because he's awful.
I felt the exact opposite just from seeing him fuck. I don't know. The one flex I liked, and he's just like, they're mid-talking, right? Because they have the worst, like, introduction scene where it's just like, hey, you want to do big word foreplay? Sure.
Oh
and they start thesising each other.
I loved it.
And then all of a sudden they're like walking through the park, and in mid-walk she's like, hey, your place to fuck? And she's like, all right.
That was
And
my
next
favorite.
thing you know is just a hard cut to them fucking on a couch. But not only that, the shot that I just was baffled by, who just puts a space heater 1 foot
my God.
from your face?
Who puts a fucking heat lamp in the middle of sex?
But
Like,
that's what
right
I mean.
there?
It shocked me, but then I was like, have I been doing this wrong?
And the answer is yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I think it's better.
Clearly, if we're not gonna expound upon the like willingness of man to become their own god in the middle of sex, I'm clearly doing it wrong. I'm gonna go buy 10 space heaters right now just so I can cover it.
And the thing that you left off is the space heater was creating more sweat than I have
So
ever
much sweat.
seen in a motion picture. And I mean, like, the entire motion picture combined in one scene.
It was like all of Rocky's boxing matches at
Yes.
once. Yeah, no. I mean, God, I don't know. I'm just such a sweater, and I'm so much bigger than my wife. I would be afraid she would drown. But other than that, you know, I'm just like, I don't think this is great, but I do like that he took a break in the middle to be like, oh, hey, nice sex. Busy thinking about Jesus and the crucifixion. And I was like, this guy does. he has like I don't know if it's like a cult leader mentality, but there's some kind of like ultra negging going on here that I almost feel bad for her. I don't know.
Such a high, you know. I don't feel bad. She
knows what she's doing.
She knows what she's doing. So Eddie, William Hurt's character, hears about this tribe that's doing like a ayahuasca ceremony, and he's like, "Oh, more like out of body experiences. Great, sign me up." And then when he gets there, he finds out that they're actually doing this like super crazy drug that like brings you back to your very first self. You're like, you're like pre-born essence.
Right.
And he does it and sees crazy visions, convinces them to give him more of this stuff, and then decides to go back home and then like one up it by then doing it in the sensory deprivation tank.
Yes.
And he does it so hard and so good that he ends up externalizing these trips and become a caveman and breaks out and runs around and hunts at the zoo.
Yeah.
So great.
In an incredible scene where he's just chasing animals as a caveman. And then he does it more. He doesn't stop. He doesn't go like, he's just like, guys, this was awesome. And again, and then literally just becomes light. His body disappears, and his wife and friends, coworkers, bring him home. And when she touches him, she turns into light. And when he sees her turn to light, it's like he remembers his humanity. And
is that what was happening? Okay.
Him back. And it's kind of a beautiful and emotional ending that comes out of nowhere, because the entire movie he is the coldest, most unfeeling human being, except for with his sensory deprivation tank, which he loves unconditionally.
Yes.
And then turns into this like, kind of beautiful statement about love. I don't know. I'm still wrestling with it.
That's definitely a read.
I like to think that a young Huey Lewis went to the movie theaters in 1980 to see Altered States and thought, it's the power of love. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And then 9 years later,
I took no love from this at all. I mean, first off, this man has to almost,
it's all about love.
He has to almost murder them from dehydration just to fuck, right, with the space heater. And then at the end, his fucking problem where he's just like, I can't live with the pain anymore. Nice try, you saved me, ? Then he turns her into molten lava lady. He hugs her and she's back after he just pounds the wall. I also was like, worst neighbor ever, ? I think so. Right? Like, I feel like him and his doctor friend who just screams every sentence are like, I wouldn't want to live by these people. But anyway, so he goes and hugs her. And I'm like, are we just assuming that that's it? Like, that 7 years from now, he's not also going to be like, God, now our kids are bitches, and I don't like you still. Like, the space heater's broken, so that's no good. The first time he's, like, in mid-coitus with her and starts thinking about Jesus getting crucified again, she's definitely going full lava baby again. Like, this is a time loop of terror and tragedy to me. There's nothing good about this. That's my read.
I sat down with this movie knowing it was going to be crazy. I had seen The Devils, the Ken Russell film, The Devils, which is I would love Criterion to release The Devils. That would be beautiful.
They had it on their service for like a month. Now I have like some janky like Laserdisc reprint or whatever. But it's so good, man.
It's so good. I saw it like 6 years ago, but I have it like on a ripped DVD. Like someone like gave me a DVD to burn, and I was like, like it was gold, and was blown away by that. And this one, I liked just as much, if not. I literally was like, oh, nothing can top The Devils, and I loved this movie. I was transported.
This is I mean, for me, it's the Oliver Reed factor. It's just like, that's the guy, like, I didn't appreciate him enough when I'm young, but as I'm older, you're like, I don't want to be like DiCaprio. I want to be Oliver Reed. That's the man I wish I was morphing into. So that's like the only X factor to me, but
his voice, and I just rewatched The Brood again, and like Oliver Reed is incredible. And I need to see more Oliver Reed movies, because every time he shows up, your eye is drawn to him. He's like a magnet. I can't look away.
Yeah, he is the primordial force that William Hurt was searching for, I think.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Alex, hit me up. What was going through your mind as you watched William Hurt divulge into this journey? This is a question I guess I'll ask. What the fuck was he looking for? Because at first I was like, oh, he's trying to break down this. There's obviously this philosophical undertone, right? Like he wants to break down religion and all this common man shit. But there was that weird moment when he goes all Trog or whatever. And I was like, is this? Like, in his mind, right, when he's pontificating at that sandwich shop, sweaty and drunken.
Yeah.
Was this what he imagined? Was this in his thesis?
I mean, that's the movie right there. Like, I love that. I've seen Altered States, I don't know, like 10 times in my, like, from, like, my high, like, I saw it by accident in high school. Like, it was just one of those things you see on, like, HBO's signature, Altered States. Cool, whatever. It's 10 o'clock. I don't give a shit. And then you, like, repeatedly watch it because, like, oh, I got to see 8 Man again and, like, all that other shit. And then it's also one of those things that's been parodied. Like, that's, like, I told my wife that tonight, I'm like, the one thing I remember the most now is the ending because of South Park. Because Cartman has that whole fucking fit at the end of the episode where he tries to kill his mom. But, like...
What? Wait, are you telling me that South Park did an Altered States?
So... There is an episode where Cartman like tries to become good, and literally he's fighting with this other side of himself. He says, "No, it's my mom. I could kill her if I want." And he literally goes through the hallway like slamming the walls, doing the Altered States thing, and like pukes up black bile. It's really fucking funny. Okay. Even out of context, it's hilarious. But yeah, like that's the thing that I remember the most from because of that now. But I remember the first time I watched this movie going, dude, that guy tricked that lady into marrying him, and they stayed together for 7 years. It's still the most shocking thing to me is like,
that's
she
what
never noticed. Like, by the way, that dinner that they all had at that little sandwich shop where they're just drunkenly shouting at each other, you know that's like the 50th time he has done that. Like, 50th time he's gotten wasted and just gone off the rails.
I don't think he ever talks not in, like, term paper.
No,
right?
Absolutely
But that is such an awesome scene, because I love that fucking scene, right?
It's great.
Again, them, like, thesising each other, then they get married, and they're still like, we'd rather work. She's like, yeah, I'm taking my kids to Africa, whatever. Like, no, don't they have school? Like, they have nothing going on. They don't have friends or, like, a grandma. Like, all right, fuck it. Like, that's fine. They'll just follow us around in our baggage. Right. William Hurt doesn't even, like, acknowledge his kids, except for once when he's like, they think your dad's crazy. And she's like, yeah, I'm 3. Like, I agree.
Well, they try to get you to think he cares about them at the very beginning when Bob Balaban walks out. Hey, are you guys getting divorced? Shh, shh. Kid's sleeping. I'm like, you don't give a shit.
Okay.
He doesn't give a shit. He just doesn't want to talk about emotions.
If you have kids, that scene is very different. That's not look at that, Dad. That's a, dear God, I have 3 hours to not deal with this thing. Shut your fucking trap.
That's true. You got a good point. Never mind.
You never wake a sleeping child.
Still being selfish. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But I love that scene. The scene where they're having the dinner in the restaurant's one of my favorites, right? Because it really is the scene to me that hammers home everything this movie's about, right? Which is this guy is sitting here claiming, I hate religion. I hate these philosophies. He even tells his friend, right? He's like, that's why I'm getting a divorce. I can't stand the rituals and the phonies and the politics behind the scenes. And as he's doing this and sweatily walking around, not engaging anyone, just fucking monologuing, right? Like he's a fucking Bond villain.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's not even including James Bond. He's just monologuing to like us beer, right? It's the scene where you're like, oh, this guy who hates religion and all this shit, like his religion is him. He's his own God. He's writing his own myths right now. And this whole fucking false pursuit is because he wants to be the guy that's doing he's appropriating the wildest drugs or whatever. So that comes back on him, right? It is kind of the fun twist of the movie, is his descent into, static electricity sperm. You're like, okay, so the whole thing he's doing here is because he was willing to destroy his physical self so that his god name or whatever can be synonymous with the great leap in science or whatever. But you're like, when he goes full ape man, I think he even says, right? He's like, all I thought about was survival and eating and drinking. And he's like, it was the most utterly happy I've ever been. I was like, that's a lie.
It's hugely selfish.
I don't know if Andrew, if you agree. I was like, that's a fucking lie.
I picture like the trailer voice, like if he was searching for the meaning of life and it was in front of him the entire time. And then
Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror starts. Oh God. Yeah, but that scene though, him pontificating, that was the whole, because they had this 3-shot motif in the movie I had never noticed before that I love today. Was they start bringing in the surreal pretty early in this movie, right? When he shows up to the party and he opens the door and he's just like Stanley Kubrick backlit.
Yeah.
Almost as if he's walking
I love
in
that
from
shot.
heaven. Just like gobsmacked me. I was like, oh
It's
man,
straight
that's
up
fucking
Jesus
awesome
stuff. Like that's the kind of shit I love, man.
Right. So he does it there, and then when he walks into the ritual, right, down in Mexico, the same thing. It's like that super hot backlit cave, right? As he's walking in, it's fucking awesome, right? But then at the end, as he's starting to break down, right, when the screaming doctor shows up in the middle of the night, after he's like, here, have some wine, I ate a goat. He's like telling his wife that second of the movie. Then we do it the exact opposite, where he is backlit, but his whole front is in black silhouette because he's beginning to deconstruct himself.
Right.
And I was just like, man, there is like some really fun next level visual storytelling in this movie.
Ken Russell is a master at that, and the images that he comes up with, because sometimes like filmmakers will try that, like, we're having a trip, we're having an experience, and it just comes off as boring. And in this one, you felt like you were going through this experience with him, and some of the images of just like you're melting into an abyss really kind of affected me emotionally. Just like you just feel it in your heart, like your heart like starts beating faster.
Yeah. I think it's always fascinating when visually you are made as uncomfortable as the people in the movies. Like that, I think, is the thing that this movie achieves more than anything, is that I am just as uncomfortable as William Hurt. Like when the first time he does the trip in Mexico, I am terrified, if not a little bewildered, almost the same way. Like when fireworks are going off in the cave, yes, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, like production wise, I'm sure that was a fucking nightmare. There's literally just like shit going on.
Stop production managering us.
But like just watching the movie, you're like, holy shit, like, if you were fucking tripping balls and fireworks are going off in your face, like, it'd be fucking terrifying no matter what.
Yeah.
That is the kind of shit that I love about Altered States, is all the things that are the hallucinatory moments make me not necessarily feel hallucinatory, but disheveled and uncomfortable watching the movie itself. Because then when we come back to the real, I'm almost changed as like William Hurt in a way. Like you're just like, oh, well, who the fuck wants to stay here when there's crazy shit and I can literally turn into Ape Man and not care about anything else? Like, that's amazing.
2020 has been like the year of turning into the Ape Man, though. Like I'm over.
I just like, speaking of Ape Man, like I love anytime I watch a movie and I'm like, how did they film that? Like, they were allowed to let someone into the zoo to chase the animals? Like you wouldn't be able to do that nowadays. And like them firing fireworks at him in the cave. I'm like, no one would be the SAG would be all over you.
See, I'm not the only one who thinks like that. Absolutely.
Only James Cameron can do that to actors. No, I mean, there's a scene when he's the guy. I mean, one, he fucking smacks a dog. That's like a big no-no. But he has a fake rock in his hand, and he fucking hits an elephant in the face. And I was like, there's like a 1 out of 10 times where like that elephant's like, hey, fuck you, and kills you.
Yeah.
Like, or the elephant who's like, hey, I fucked that elephant, and he comes over and kills you. Like, there's a lot of chances that could have gone, but he jumps up and fucking smacks that thing between the eyes.
Yeah.
I went to my friend worked at a zoo, and they had like double fences for the elephants because she's like, yeah, elephants like don't know how big they are, and they will crush people even like unintentionally. So I'm just watching the scene like this is so dangerous, and I love that he did this.
He really didn't care.
There is that really nice like French Connection stunt thing going on while he's running through like smashing elephants in the face with rocks. Like he could have died right there. That guy was like a ballet dancer too, like a famous ballet.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Well, because I wonder because they gave him the blue lenses, and I was like, did William Hurt like really learn to traverse obstacles like this?
That's
like
definitely not
that
William
is
Hurt.
Incredible.
It's not William Hurt.
That's movie magic because I bought it. I was like, I think that's William Hurt.
It is, man.
He shrinks and becomes a small, Cro-Magnon or whatever.
I thought it was like some Andy Serkis stuff where he was just like changing his posture, and I was like, my God, look at the commitment.
But like that was his first movie, and like the confidence that he shows in the role is astounding. You're like, of course this guy became a star.
Yeah.
Him and Blair Brown are fucking next level, man. I can't believe I texted Griffey earlier when I was watching it, and I was just like, him, Bob Balaban, and Blair Brown. Like this movie in any other actor's hands does not feel correct. Like that swagger that you're talking about is so strictly William Hurt. And like you can see it even as he's gotten older. Like I think about other movies I've like loved him in, like History of Violence, and even like movies where he's like really boring, like Too Big to Fail. I'm still sitting there and just in awe of like this fucking guy who's just like, I got this. It's unteachable.
But it's not even a like he's trying to be sexy. It's like he is so fascinated by whatever it is that he's interested in that you're fascinated, and he doesn't care if you are fascinated. He doesn't care if anyone else cares about it. He's so secure with himself that you're drawn to him.
Yeah.
It's a skill. It's a talent. I think maybe he's just born with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's unteachable.
Well, he has the amazing like I know I'm the best man in every room thing, which works for a really good arrogant, because this movie is essentially Jekyll and Hyde by way of like Timothy Leary and Joe Rogan. I don't know if that's like tagline worthy. Like they're probably not going to promote it, but that's how I would tell people to watch, if they're doing this.
Wow.
But what I love about what he does in the movie that I think is shows that this guy had the extra gear is the vulnerability he shows in the hallucinations. Because I think for a guy like him, it's like, you're tall, handsome, you look like a professor, you just talk down to everyone. I think that's a little easier for a young actor to take on, right? Because you're projecting this outward front, right? It's the kind of like mask or costume that helps you get through. But like the scene in the cave, right, where he's first doing the ritual and they're fucking drinking his blood and the root, and he just sees like, oh, these guys are doing the same thing as me, but they must have broken themselves down enough to where it's not affecting them, and I'm just this fucking white devil who has all these like baggage things, so now I'm going nuts. But the vulnerability of when he's doing those things, right? Like, and again, that you said something earlier about like the uncomfortableness of the imagery. It's so funny. It's like I was raised very religious, right? And I haven't been in a long fucking time, but it still gets me every time I see that like fucking nine-eyed goat Jesus.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're like, I shouldn't be watching this. Like, what if? It takes me back to that argument you used to have with like your religious uncle, where he's like, well, if I'm wrong, nothing happens. That's what you think. But if you're wrong, hell. And I was like, damn, that's like a hard argument to beat when I was 9.
Anytime I see stuff like that, I'm waiting for my mom to walk in and be like, oh, what are you watching? Oh my God.
But that's what I mean. He projects this amazing vulnerability. Because that's the thing. He's playing this outward like, I am the god of this realm. Everyone must bow to me. But when he's in that tank, he can't hide from himself anymore. So as an actor, being able to make that switch and play weakness while pursuing God, I think it's a really good illustration of why he became who he is. I thought that was really fascinating to watch.
I'm like reflecting on Alex saying that he saw this in high school. Like if I saw this in high school, my brain would have been like a blender. I don't like would I have like come out the same person? I don't know.
I mean, it was basically as if I was a Cro-Magnon man watching a movie. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. Oh, but tits, cool. Like that's all
you were
it
like
was.
you were like Kubrick's apes, and you're just like,
yeah, just like
Start
banging
swinging.
my head on the monolith, not learning
Yeah, you're
anything.
like, I have no idea. Well, I saw it. Man, this is going to make me seem old, and I did drugs too young, but I saw this movie stoned in a garage. My friend's like garage. His dad had like a VHS TV combo. And so we were smoking in a garage watching this movie on VHS. And I think that's the fun thing about watching it when you're young and stoned is that you're like, I'll just take out all the big questions this movie's like playing with. Like, literally, I'm just like, oh, man, is this guy banging with the space heater? And, oh, man, is that ape guy, like, eating a goat? That's awesome. Right? Like, you don't worry about what's happening. You're just sitting there going, oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
So the movie really works on both levels.
Yeah, I do think about, like, what my notes would have looked like if I was doing a podcast when I was in high school watching this movie. Like, I saw boobs and heat lamps, and I don't know. I think I saw a whirlpool at one point. But either way, cool movie.
No wonder he saved his wife at the end. Did you see that ass? Damn. That would have been like the high school podcast.
Right, like today I'm writing notes like, this movie does ponder the nature of man versus God really fast. And he's like, fuck you,
Yeah.
old Alex.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing where you're like, God, stop pretending you know stuff. Like, just, you don't know. And that's what the movie gets to eventually, right? Is
Right.
There's nothing. There's just nothing. That's the only truth. I don't know, man. One of the things I thought this time, too, that struck me as really interesting, this movie has a really weird zag in the middle of it, where if you watch the first, like, 30, 40 minutes of this movie, the thought that this becomes body horror, I think is unfathomable, right?
Yeah.
Like, to go from the Ken Russell Jesus imagery, when he's fucking one of his grad students and he's just like, his floor turns to lava and he's seeing things, to go from that to the arm and the stomach, actually those scenes are together, right? He's in bed when he feels the stomach. But then to go to that, to Trog, what do you guys, Andrew, what do you make of that? Why veer it into this physical realm? What a weird choice.
Well, that's a tough question. I to me, that was just like the next logical, like, if you go deep enough, of course it would start, becoming external. And I think that added to the mystery of what, because, like, if you don't go external, then it's just someone doing drugs in the desert. Right? It's just a fucking hipster, right? Like, at a certain point, you have to take it out of the tank. Is this a tagline for the movie?
Oh,
well shit.
Done.
Well done.
Because, like, just thinking from like a story perspective, like, you keep having to one up yourself, right? Like, it keeps having to get bigger, and I think that, like, him transforming is really when the movie starts to go like, oh shit, like he could, like, really hurt himself, not just like in a drug-induced thing. Like, this is like messing with the code, his DNA structure.
Yeah.
And it kind of really heightens the entire end of the movie. I was just about to say something. I was an aside. I love that the guy who wrote the screenplay wrote the book. Yeah. And it's the only book he's ever written, and it's the only screenplay he's ever written. And Ken Russell, apparently Ken Russell was just like a hired gun, and he hated like all the dialogue, and so just like had like people talk over each other, just like, fuck it, it's all like nonsense. And like the screenwriter was so furious with him that he like didn't like put his real name in the credits.
Oh yeah,
no,
it's
shit.
Patty. It's supposed to be Patty Chayefsky. It's Sidney Aaron, which apparently are his two middle names.
Yeah, I love that. I love that this is what a Ken Russell hired gun movie looks like. Like,
just full on over the top commitment.
I mean, what luck, Like, that's like your best case scenario for hired gun is like, this is the enduring quality of this movie. I fucking love that about that. I was reading he was the 27th choice, apparently. That's what his agent told him.
Would you love to be in the Warner Brothers screening room with the executives seeing this for the first time,
Oh,
and
God,
they're all
yes.
in their little buttoned-up suits, just being horrified?
Just really dragging on those cigars. What the fuck have we done?
Was that guy made a putty? What the fuck is this movie about? I don't understand what's going on.
The marketing guy's just like, apes are in, apes are good. I can, apes will do. Like, there's a Planet of the Apes. Like, I'll figure something.
Like, the marketing person definitely was like, "Oh, I'm getting fired of this fucking shit."
I like the idea that an executive walked up to the marketing guy after and goes, well, for good fucking luck, I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to deal with you anymore.
If this film doesn't make back its budget on weekend one, you're fucking toast. You're never working in this town again, you son of a bitch.
I have no inside information, but I would be shocked if they didn't actually float the idea of actually providing drugs to the audience. Like, I guarantee you somewhere in some back room in some meeting, guys, like, people love Coca-Cola. Drugs can go in Coca-Cola. They won't even know what hit them. For sure, someone was laying out this Home Alone plan.
Well, the Hammer films did it, so,
Yeah, for sure, right? I'd be down for that.
Like, how sad the state of our industry, where it's like, I could never picture Warner Brothers putting even a cent into a movie like this nowadays.
No. I mean,
oh, no, like a big tentpole movie? No.
No. Well, yeah, that's the thing, is it would have to be like so blown out, and it would have to be like, I mean, you could get great actors to do this movie, but like any sort of remake like this is almost impossible because it can't be a huge budget movie. It has to stay in that mid-range, and they're just not going to make those kinds of movies anymore, which I think that's part, like, it's the same thing that happened, like they did the remake of Flatliners, which
I didn't watch. I was
I watched about 20 minutes. I'm like, nah, I can't do this. Like,
yeah, I don't cheat on Oliver Platt, first
yeah,
off.
I can't cheat on Platt, so, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
well, no, it's like, but think about, like, the last movie even similar to, like, extravagant, like, big budget kind of a horror science fiction thing. I was like, maybe, I was kind of shocked by what Get Out got away with, I guess. But other than that, you're like, I mean, there just aren't those kind of movies. Now you see stuff like Andrew's movie Rot, Possessor, like, there are movies like that coming out in that kind of small market, because you can take more of a shot. I think the smaller your budget is, the more it helps you to go in that direction, right?
What a sandwich you just put me in. I got Get Out on one side, ooh, feeling that, and then the other sandwich cookie is
Yeah.
Wait, what was it?
Possessor.
Possessor. I was like,
Yeah.
honored.
Oh, I mean, they're both looking right up at your taint, sir. Your movie far surpasses those two. No, I'm just kidding. But no, but that's what I mean. I think you made a really interesting movie that goes out there, right?
Yeah.
Like, your movie's not just something like my mom could have on while she's like baking cookies and follow. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, you got to sit, you got to think, you got to grapple it, and it goes for it, man. And I like the thought that we can't get more movies like Altered States nowadays without it being that thing where it's low budget, it comes in under the radar, might get washed in the deluge of, oh, Netflix has 15 new series of TV every 3 days. Like, it's hard for smaller movies to rise above sometimes, you know?
I need to just always rewatch Reanimator if I'm ever like, oh, is this too far? Like, severed head guy being put in, like, onto a naked girl to eat her out. Like I always need to keep that movie somewhere in my mind to go, like, no, I need to push beyond that.
Right? Like, beyond Reanimator. No, but what I'm saying, it's like that famous Seth Rogen quote, right? Where he's like, his favorite movie always says is Total Recall. And he's like, that's the movie that taught me. He's like, audiences will go as far as you can take them. Like, audiences will sit there and do what, like, if you think about Total Recall, you're like, how was that so popular with so many people? Like, that's a wild film, right? And it's got all kinds of crazy shit in it. But, you know, they just made this super enjoyable, you know, fucking roller coaster movie. Yeah. And that's always something that stuck with me, is the movie, you can get way out there, right? And I think this movie, again, it had, with your Ken Russells and your cast, like, it is, I think it is just that rare kind of like lightning in a bottle scenario, like totally. How you got all this fucking talent on this, I mean, I don't want to call it insufferable, but the characters themselves are insufferable types of people, right? And they're all doing this like, you know, I am better than everyone else who's ever. They're really hard to latch onto and root for anyone in this movie. Maybe that's the best way to put it, right?
You know what? I think I'll disagree a little bit in that it's kind of got that maybe that Christopher Nolan thing where it's like all of his characters are so driven. And I think inherently an audience is fascinated by people that are so driven that the normal day-to-day things that everyone worries about, they don't give a shit about.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there's because that is the closest that human beings will get to being superheroes is the person that is so driven by like their search for something that supersedes all else. And I love that. I love those characters. So even though like definitely I'm like, well, I would definitely never want to be friends with this person or you know, I don't even know if I would want him as my professor at the university because he probably was a terrible professor.
Oh yeah.
But I am fascinated by his journey.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Andrew. I think the drive is the thing that makes him relatable and makes us care what's happening by the end of the movie in any way. Like that is what makes that is probably the most human thing about him, and everything else, of course. Yeah, like. I would never want to meet this person in real life.
Right.
Ever.
I mean, I agree with you. I think, like, I'm one of those people, I look at, like, The Rock's Instagram, and I'm like, fuck that guy. I was like, fuck The Rock. Like, that guy's not happy. I know a guy who knows The Rock, and he says The Rock really is just nice and happy. I was like, yeah, right, that's a serial killer front. That guy never hugs his kids. He's a terrible... Like, you know, I don't buy into this myth-making of the ultra-productive man. It's funny you said because I watched it today and I was like, I had my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old. I was like doing the Home Alone dad thing. And I'm like, I got to watch this fucking monkey movie. I got to fucking, you know, make empanadas. I got to do all this shit. And I was like, this is really hard. And you got to sit down and color and do all that. So having that day where you're like, I got to be a good dad. And then watching this movie where he literally never addresses his children once. Like even when he's in his post, I was a whirlpool and then a sperm. In your hands, and I came back, and now I'm just in bed. They wake up the next morning, inexplicably both naked, right? Before they go full lava and TV static. And she gets a phone call. She's like, no, he's fine. God, I'll call you back when I'm awake. And she's just like, oh, good. I thought it was the girls. And my very first thought is, they didn't leave those kids with a babysitter, did they? They just left them in the house to fend for themselves. Like, that's the kind of people you're dealing with. And I think those people are, I think what happens in this movie and a lot of those driven movies, it is fascinating to us because we can't do that, right? We can't diet, we can't do this, we can't do that. But I think what we're really rooting for is to see this guy go into the abyss. I don't think we're really hoping for him to come out and have, as Andrew said, like a possibly romantic and satisfactory ending.
You don't like my interpretation of the ending?
No, I love that you're that optimistic. I love that you're that guy, and if that's the way this movie ends, I think it'd be the second weird zag for me, right? Like, what a weird thing for us to accept. The weirdest part
about the movie is literally the love of someone who he's pretty much divorced himself emotionally from is what brings him back.
Also, I would say it's not that he loves her. He's like, I love that you stopped me from regressing back into the whirlpool.
That's love.
Like, I mean, come on.
It's
married. Like me saying as a diabetic man, God, I love my insulin.
100% be a fucking feral, primordial, hair-driven man running around Indiana right now.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
I'm not that far from it. Yeah, absolutely.
I know. You would have regressed already. Amy is your Blair Brown, man. She's pulling you back from the primordial ooze.
I mean, she's the one who keeps opening my sensory deprivation tank for sure. Thanks a lot for that.
maybe you're bumping against this movie, the ending, so much because it hits too close to home.
Ooh, yeah.
That's it. I just want to devolve faster. Stop it, wife and kids.
Shit, dude. Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. I'll be interested to see what the audience thinks.
This movie's deeply therapeutic for Griffey, I think.
I think it's weird because maybe I wish I was William Hurt and I could just be a shitty father and husband and do whatever I want all the time, and I just can't. Like, I can't bring myself to do it.
I love that and Ken Russell even goes so far as he cast Drew Barrymore and is like backless, or she's like glowing. She looks like the cutest fucking kid in the world. And
wait. Drew Barrymore is his kid in this movie?
What? Drew Barrymore's, one of the
Drew
kids.
Barrymore, was it? She's the kid who he says they think your dad's crazy?
I don't know if it...
She's the one who walks into the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, they think your dad's crazy. Like, wow, what a great dad thing to say. You haven't seen her. She's been in Africa for 8 months.
Yeah, it's
really? That's Drew Barrymore?
And
Holy shit.
Bill Hurt's first movie, yeah.
Yeah, their first
movie.
movies.
I did not know that. Well, that's extra horrible then. Drew Barrymore was just surrounded by horrible role models as a child.
I mean, she turned, look what happened during our teenage years, okay?
Yeah. But she persevered.
Bill Hurt.
She escaped the trog fucking survival phase and is now a fully formed godlike figure herself. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's so much in this movie that it baffles. I think to Andrew's point is it's just like, I love any movie where you're just like, how the fuck did they pull this off? Like, not even like a tech, like, how the fuck did you get this movie made? Like, how did you convince a bunch of people that this is what we wanted? And lo and behold, it's exactly what we fucking wanted. You know what I mean?
I also like, we've movies have really, I'm not gonna bash movies. Modern movies are great. But
I saw that Scorsese eye roll. Ooh.
There's just something about watching a movie where every single shot is purposeful.
Yeah.
And it's at no point can you watch a scene and go like, oh man, they got a bunch of coverage saving the day for this. Like every single angle was carefully composed. And I am just so thirsty for that again. I really want to like watch a movie and like that's why like whenever something really great comes out that someone has put so much thought into, it feels special. But that's the thing is, back then you could not have a career if you couldn't do that. Even on movies like Ken Russell, from what I read, Ken Russell he was just brought on and it was a paycheck movie. And he treated it like it was a passion project.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are the only films you see nowadays are the passion projects where the person actually treats every frame like it matters. And I miss when every movie was like that, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's exceptionally interesting for this movie too, because the way the movie is so purposefully shot and laid out, it extends this dreamlike quality, right? Because you see, what I like about this movie is that it's both ambiguous and meticulously planned, right? Because I think a lot of times, to your point, drug and dream sequences fail when they're too hyper-specific on what we're supposed to be knowing that they're learning in their drug trip, right? Whereas I think Ken Russell just excels at, like, he probably is like, oh, I've been here, I've done this, I hang out with Oliver Reed, dude, I know what's up. And he's just like, I'm just going to put shit that I know will elicit this fearful, this is unsafe reaction from you. And then when you get stuff like him entering the party, backlit like that, it makes you feel like there is this ominous, almighty power behind the real world frames of the movie. It's really strange, but God, yeah, man. I'm with you. It's weird because I think this is the thing too. I was a screenplay analyst for a lot. We've all probably written screenplays and you read all the books and shit. And it's like the amount of movies I go to, and by 20 minutes, I'm like, I can tell you every fucking thing that's coming for the rest of this fucking movie, and you're just like tuned out. You're like, ugh. Right? Like I can sit on my couch at home, and half of the movies I watch, I'm just on my phone now because you're like, got it. 15 minutes in, you're like, got it. Know everything that's coming. Maybe they'll get you once, and that's all you hope for. And I don't know, man. There is this massive disconnect that I don't know how we bridge that anymore, right? Because, I mean, maybe when you're making a movie that's going to cost, like, there's going to be $1 billion movie before you know it. And I guess maybe you just can't play down to, like, the niche audience anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do want to, and you kind of touched on it, is, like, what fucking genre is this? Like, I mean, you could say it's a drama, but, like, that doesn't feel right. It is scary at times, but I don't know if it is thrilling. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to classify it.
I thought about this too when I was watching it, because like for me, Altered States is a prototype movie for a lot of, it's the forefather for a lot of like analytical science fiction and analytical like metaphysical thrillers that have come out since then. Like the things that I think of when I watch Altered States are specifically The X-Files and Fringe, which are 2 TV shows, obviously, but those are 2 things that I remember specifically watching. Be like, some of this feels very Altered States. Fringe specifically had, I mean, not just because Blair Brown's in it, but also because there's a lot of like the quest for godliness in man in regards to that kind of thing. So for me, I've never been able to, I agree, like it's like 5 different genres for me, but to me, it's always been about there's always a lot of metaphysical, it's metaphysical to me, at least. But that's not a genre. That's literally just a word that you can use to describe something.
That's one of your fancy college boy words. No.
You also went to college. No, don't try.
I mean, I was there. I was there technically, but yeah. No, to me, this is a straight up horror film, right? And I'm one of those people too. I think all of the best science fiction movies that I like play as horror films because they're really fucking scary, right? Like, I don't like science fiction where it's like, shit's going to be okay. Like, you're going to have a better iPhone. You're going to have a robot girlfriend. It's going to be great, right? Like, that doesn't, all the science fiction I really like works as a horror film to me. And I think this one taps onto just the existential question of like, is there a point of any of this? Right. Anytime you start asking the question, I can't remember the famous quote, right? And it's whether there is or is not a God, either answer is the scariest answer. You know, like that's a horrible butchering and paraphrasing of that quote. But it's like, imagine if we're just absolutely alone and none of this matters. It was a random accident. That's kind of horrifying, right? Now imagine that there's some fucking creepy old man making us go through these fucking horrifying events day to day. That's really fucking scary. And to me, just the thought of a man goes in a tank and comes out as an ape man, right? And like, you could just be walking down the street. Next thing you know, this ape could be fucking beating you with your minimum wage baton. Like, that's a fucking horror movie.
When you don't know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And like that, like it's an explosion or something, right? And then like the ape jumps out. It is truly scary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very, very well done.
Yeah, I mean the zoo scene they just redid that for American Werewolf in London, right? Like the movie to me is horrifying. Like the wife at the end has a great line where she's just like, of all the men in the world, she has this really weird line where she's like, I tried to fuck every guy in Africa, it didn't work. Right? She's like, I just kept thinking it was him, but she says the line, she's like, I am possessed by him. And to me, this is kind of on a minor level, like an exorcism parallel to me, where they're all just possessed, like Andrew said, by this fucking driving force to find some kind of fucking need or something. Like when the guy finds out they're getting divorced, he's just like, you guys have it made, man. She's an all-time lady, kids, money, your professors, but they're fucking miserable. And to me, these are all horrifying concepts. You know, the fact that I think it's one of those really scary things we all ask ourselves, because we all have these things at the end of the line, right? Well, if I just make this much money, if I just buy this house, right? If my kids can just be healthy, right? Even lower ones, we all say, oh man, I would jump off a bridge if my kids would be healthy forever. It's like, would you? Like, come on. But like, we all say that shit.
A really small bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, I'd suffer some broken legs.
Like a bridge over a crick, perhaps. You know?
Oh.
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
There you go.
I would jump off of that bridge.
Yes, I will do a backflip off of the tiniest crick bridge. No, but think about this, though, right? It's the man who gets everything he wants and realizes it's not enough. I don't know. I think to me, maybe I just am realizing from this movie is I'm very cynical. But you're like, all of this shit is really horrifying to me. I don't know. This movie, to me, it makes my skin crawl a lot. I think this is an absolutely terrifying movie. And I think that's one of the things, like, if you've experimented with drugs at all, I think that's one of the interesting things about William Hurt's character, and you see it a lot in the ritual scene, right? A man like that who's so used to dominating his environment and being in control, you know, having a doctorate by 25 or whatever he says, super smart. He goes in there and he's just like, yeah, I got this. I do drugs in a tank. No big deal. I have a scuba suit. It's really cool. I'm awesome at drugs. And next thing you know, he has no control.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely and he's almost mad at the tribe when he leaves. He's like, they're fucking laughing at me. And so that kind of guy who's so in control all the time, hallucinatory states are extra horrifying. That bad trip is usually you can't control what's happening to you, and that's when you spiral out. So I thought that was a really fun extra layer too, man. I don't know. I think this movie is just loaded with horrifying concepts.
It was one where the movie ended, and I was just shocked that I don't hear people talking about it more often.
It's weird.
It is so masterfully made because it really down this rabbit hole with him, and it's one where like the movie doesn't spell everything out. Mm-hmm. It leaves enough dangling there where you do question, well, what did the journey mean? Like, what was the point of all this? And am I happy for them? Am I like it really does not hold your hand at all. And I really appreciate that in a movie. Like sometimes it's great to watch a movie. It has a great message, ties everything up at the end. There's nothing wrong with that, but I do love that there is space in filmmaking for mystery.
Yes.
And for the unknowable. Right. And I always appreciate when filmmakers attempt to film the unknowable. Yeah. And attempt to bring you on that journey into the unknown and make you question what you just saw. And I think that that's admirable, and I think that it's a difficult road to traverse. Like I think that it very well could have gone horribly wrong.
Yes.
Boring or, gone up its own butt. I think this is not a pretentious film.
No.
It is filled with pretentious characters.
Yeah.
The movie.
I think that's what
really
makes it not pretentious.
Separation. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. I think that and it's weird. I actually wrote a bunch of notes about Bob Balaban's character because I really like characters in movies.
Poor bastard.
Yeah, but see, I like people I like characters, especially in these kinds of movies, that are real people placed in these situations. Because Bob Balaban is a real person who's experiencing something phenomenally weird. Like, William Hurt is a written character in a movie, but Bob Balaban is the real person like this, not necessarily an anchor or anything like that, but an actual person who has to be the witness to these events. Yeah. Like, I love that opening where he's describing the tank. Because I personally love the first tank. I'm always sad that that's not the tank throughout the movie.
The first tank is way cooler, yeah.
And it always is sad that that's not the set piece through the movie. But I get it. Like, you gotta have space.
Well, it has like that awesome old like submarine window. You're like, imagine the visions through that.
First shot of the movie.
First shot of the movie. It's awesome.
Like, whoa, okay.
But I love that Bob Balaban starts the movie like. He's just got that great timbre, that great monologue at the very beginning, just literally describing like this is what the movie is going to be. Like I'm going to start you off with a really simple explanation of what's happening, of what we're doing, because it's the same thing we talked about. Like we talked a long time ago when we watched Psycho, where not everybody knew at that time what psychotherapy was, psychology was, and so on and so forth. I still don't think everybody understands what sensory deprivation tanks are meant for. So I love when people explain those kinds of things at the beginning of the movie because I don't feel like it's just needless exposition. What it is setting a tone for the movie to give you the understanding that there is some scientific merit to this. There is something going on. And I like that Bob Balaban does it because it cements him as the real person who has to literally sit through all this crazy shit that's about to happen. I really like that.
I mean, and Cronenberg and Carpenter do the same thing where they'll weave in science into their storytelling, into this horrifying thing that they're about to take us on. It's almost like a Crichton novel where it's like, here's the real science, and then he like tweaks it 10%, and you're like, oh shit, like. Yeah. Is there a tribe in Mexico that does this crazy shit? And like, maybe I should try ayahuasca. I don't know. I could ingest some poison and vomit up spaceships. Like, that seems maybe like a good idea.
No, I mean, I think this phase of the movie, though, is what's exceptional, because I think you could argue whether the wife feels like a real character. I think there are characters like that in the world, but I think for the average moviegoers, them as a couple are just not going to get us there.
Right.
But the friend who just is the doctor, Mason, who's just like, God damn it, enough. I'll report you to the board. But then he comes back, and he has one of my favorite lines in the movie where he's just like, someone's got to keep an eye on you two sorcerers. And he's just like there with his cigar. I was like, I love these fucking guys. And what I said is that segment of the movie has a real Jaws vibe to me, right? We're going to need a bigger sensory deprivation tank. Like, it's just those guys sitting there talking about this uncharted water and this unseen fucking monstrosity. I like the bond of them, even though the one friend is just constantly yelling at them and 100% destroying a handkerchief with goat's blood evidence. That's a weird extra scene they just added. But still, you like that guy. You buy their friendship.
He is so... Like, I love that character because he is just as curious and driven as them, but he is not willing to take it all the way.
He's the Scully.
He has to be there.
Yeah.
He has to be there to see it.
Gotta be there.
Eyes.
He has to be the witness.
Well,
it can't be Balaban because he's in.
Yeah.
He's in. And that's the thing. By the end of the movie, right, when we have our poltergeist ending with the fucking bright lights, and every time they look, they're blinded, and they pass out, but she can go further because she is possessed by him and loves him. When they come back to that apartment, you see him still trying to, like, check his vitals and shit, but you can absolutely tell everyone in this room, their lives are over.
Yeah.
Right? Like, all of them as they existed before essentially have died and will be either pariahs that no one believes, right? They will keep this a secret, and it will eat them up from the inside, and they'll all kill themselves. Or they will keep doing this, and God knows what they'll unleash on our society. Like, these small... And that's why I think those two characters in particular really work for this. Because they leave the apartment. We don't see them turn into, like, lava butts and whatever. Like, they're out there in the world, and we have to contemplate, so now these normal people, right? Not these, like, professor types or whatever. These guys, for the rest of their life, every single day are going to have to grapple with what the fuck they know. And how do you do that as just a normal person?
That's fascinating. I love that you said that because I was so focused on Hurt that I didn't think about what it meant for them. And you're right. Like what do you do with this information when you've seen it with your own eyes? Mm-hmm. And you've kind of unlocked a little bit of the secret of the universe, but it's like scrambled your insides. Like you literally, like they're never going to be happy. They're never going to be sitting on a park bench going like, oh my God, the sunshine feels so nice today. And like, they're literally always in the back of their mind being like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, their lives are all garbage now.
Well, like his friend, right? The guy who's all the way in, who has his own pregnant wife. You're like, that guy has his own family that we've seen. Yeah. That's over. Like, my mind immediately leaps to, like, Close Encounters, right? That's just a normal, everyday guy. And he is confronted with absolute, undeniable proof that there is life in this universe besides us. And that he's just like, his family disintegrates. At the end, he walks on that ship. I guess they're just going to, like, have to... Well, Dad had the only job. I guess we're homeless now. We'll eat the cat and see if how long that lasts us. Like, that's how Close Encounters ends. You know what I mean? And, like, all these science fiction movies, I think it's so important to have an anchored person that feels like they could be our neighbor.
Totally.
And be like, just imagine if all of a sudden your neighbor's like, dude, there are people with fucking gorilla throats, and they fucking mutate. Like, I've seen the x-rays. There's gorilla throats. You'd be like, oh, man, that guy just found InfoWars. I can't hang out with him anymore. And then they're just gone. Like, they're just gone out of your life. Like, that's crazy shit.
Yeah, that all of his neighbors are like, oh, that's great that you are excited about your research.
Like, honey, kids, come back here. Lock the door. Lock the door.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I think, but that's like one of those small things. I feel like this movie never misses a beat. You know what I mean? Like, there's just not a dropped ball. I think the only thing I left the movie wondering is, again, I think, and maybe that's a good thing, right? Because if you just, it reminds me a little bit of the Prometheus paradox, right? Like, Prometheus is a movie that wants to be an aliens movie, but also wants to be this philosophical treatise on the most important question of all, right? Like, why are we here? And they just do it like a fucking teenager's 6th grade paper. And you're like, if you're going to tackle the big questions, don't try to answer that shit, right? We've been trying to answer that forever, and we'll never answer it.
Right.
And I think him just being like, I was there at that moment, right? The moment this all started, it was just an absolute... and he even says that nothingness was fucking terrifying, right? Because earlier we hear him and he's like, when I only had to survive, right? I was just a beast of food and survival. That was the most fulfilling time of his life. He realizes even that survival instinct is good, right? Because when he truly gets to nothing, which is what it seems like he wants, he describes it as terrifying and endless, right? Yeah. So maybe that's what the movie wants to leave us with. You can keep going down this road, but you're just going to end up like him, just this miserable fucking deformed monster. You know? I mean, I don't think this is a movie that can end with like a, what's in the box? You know what I mean? Like you can't... open the tank
like,
and no.
For all of its religious imagery, it is, it's the burning bush, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't see my face because it'll melt you. Like you're done.
Yeah.
And this is a group of people, mainly William Hurt, who want to see the face. People are telling them this is a bad idea, and they're like, I don't care. I'm going to see it. I'm going to get to the other side.
Yeah. And that's the thing, even if it's for like a narcissistic, selfish reason, that almost makes it better, right? Because to be selfish and then be all the way broken down into whatever the fuck he is at the end, he looks like a Zygon from Doctor Who. You're like, all right, like, awesome, man. That works for me, right? Like, I think that kind of shit is, there's just like so many small moments, right? Like when she enters the 2001 montage, right? Where it's like sperm and light and pew, pew, egg, eyeball, pew, pew. When she enters, right, and she's like flowing hair like she's in Xanadu or Flash Gordon, she has no clothes on. But when she reaches her hands out and finds his head, she still has her wedding ring on, right? Because that love for him, I was just like, that's such a small little fucking thing, right? Why be
naked? See, we got him.
But
there.
Then you have the ring, and you're just like, fuck, man.
That was good. We locked that in, Andrew, and now Griffey knows. The movie's about love.
The movie is about love. You scoffed. You scoffed at the beginning.
I mean, it's definitely about the weaponizing of love to ruin another person's life.
Nice try, man. It's cool. Don't worry. Listen, it's fine.
I just feel like she should have married any other human being on Earth.
Well, that is for damn sure. But, that's not ours to judge.
Like, had she just married Bob, right, the technician, they're just having a great life. Like, their life is stellar. Just researching and kid making.
She literally just had to look to the left, and Bob Balaban was right there.
Just because Bob Balaban's like, that's the guy you really want to fuck. She's like, all right, I'll give up on this perfectly good keeper right here. I don't know. William Hurt, I mean, he seems like a keeper, but yeah. All right, final summation, man. If you had to give like a 1 or 2 sentence, why is this movie just so absolutely endearing and eternal?
I think that it captures a little bit of the unknowable, and it takes you on a journey, an emotional journey. I think it makes you feel how these characters feel looking over the cliff into the abyss, and I think that should be celebrated.
Fuck yeah. What do you got, Alex?
Honestly, I couldn't have said that better myself. I'll add that if they ever remake this movie, that Werner Herzog needs to be the radiologist who says, he's a fucking gorilla. That's it.
Why is he Australian?
I don't know.
No, Herzog talks like
this. Wait, Griffey, do it.
The ripples of the creek swirl around the brain like snowflakes falling from the mountaintop onto the tongue of God.
No, now it's Irish. I can't do it. I haven't worked on
this man is the gorilla, but if we are all honest with our true God faces, are we all not the gorilla?
Perfect.
I don't know.
That was very good. Griffey's been working on it for a while now.
I've been working on it. I'm not great at impressions, but I've been working on it. Yeah, man, I think what this movie does, I think, is one of the rarest and most exciting things in a movie is that it makes me feel truly unsafe. Right? I love any movie that can take me all the way out there and everything is fucking scary. I don't know what's coming at next turn, and you get to ponder those big, scary things about existence that you don't really ever want to do in your normal day-to-day life. And movies is a great medium because you're safe, but you feel unsafe, right? And I think maybe like 10 or 15 movies in my entire life have done that, and this is one of the best ones that do that, man. So just as an experience, it's just an abundance of excellent craft. I can't imagine that anyone's ever like, hey, do you want to watch Altered States? And I'd be like, psh, boring. Like, that's just never going to happen for me. Yeah, like, I'll just always be excited to spend time with this movie.
I do have to admit, I'm kind of keep glancing off to the side because I have right to the side of me a full...
Why was that not on the camera the
Why
whole
was that not in the background the entire time?
I keep catching him out of the corner of my eye and doing a little bit of a...
Who's there?
So, Danny DeVito. My girlfriend bought this and sent it to her sister as a gag gift, and her sister sent it back, and it has terrified me at least 3 times when I've come around a corner and Danny DeVito's been standing in my apartment.
Yeah, weirder thing to make love right next to your face.
Yeah.
Space heater or Danny DeVito cutout?
Danny DeVito cutout, and a heat lamp. Those are the only things you need, and that's your night set. You're devolving right there. I don't know of any other. I don't know if I've seen any other Ken Russell movies, but
What do you got? List them off.
Well, so after Altered States, because the reason he actually had to take this is because he was the 27th in line because he made a movie called Valentino right before it in '77 that did not do well.
Oh, you know that's crazy. You know that's...
So the movie he did after Altered States was in 1984, and it was an erotic thriller called Crimes of Passion starring Kathleen Turner, which I might have to watch
I've
right after
seen
this.
that.
You have?
My mom loves that movie, yeah.
Well, there you go.
That movie's awesome.
In 86, he did a movie called Gothic. 87, Aria, Salome's Last Dance, The Lair of the White Worm. Oh, Lair of the White Worm.
Oh, Lair of the White Worm.
I want to see that. Is that good?
I really like that one. It's very weird. It's got Hugh Grant and a young Peter Capaldi of Doctor
It's fucking fun, man.
It's not... When you think about that movie through the lens of Altered States and the Devils, it definitely doesn't hit the levels you think it will.
Yeah.
But it is very fun. It is very fun.
I had no idea he directed Lair of the White Worm. There you go.
Yep.
And then, The Rainbow, The Russia House, Prisoner of Honor, and A Kitten for Hitler was the last one in 2007.
I've seen The Rainbow House, yeah. All right, I've seen some Ken Russell. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really think Altered States and The Devils are just far above the rest. Granted, I haven't seen half of them. But...
The Russia House, is that with Sean Connery?
The Russia House,
Yes.
I believe, is
Yes,
with Sean
Connery.
Yes.
Interesting.
Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Criterion just needs to have a Ken Russell month and just have like 15 of his movies up on the service.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. It's necessary.
Yeah, Criterion's amazing for that. Ken Russell deserves it. Man, the Devils too. Like it's hard to find. It would be nice if they brought that back.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew. We want to thank you very much for joining us. You are a stellar guest, man.
This
Awesome.
was wonderful.
This has been so fun, and I was like, man, Altered States, what? This movie's so out there. I don't even know if we're gonna be able to get past the summary, but this was good. This was very good. I liked digging into this film with you guys.
Thanks,
Oh, we're
man.
glad-
Yeah, we'd like to hope that you think this ends in a romance and not a horrible us falling into chaos together.
Oh, man.
All right, well, Andrew, you are welcome back anytime. The weirder the movie, the
Please.
better. Guys, go find Andrew's movie, Rot. When can they find that, Andrew? When's that hitting on demand? It's already out, right?
It's on Amazon. That's the place to look. We want to kind of push everyone in that direction. So Amazon, VOD. I'd love to talk about it with you guys, but I saw Altered States and I was like, I need to talk about this with someone.
Yeah,
love
so
that.
we'll be reviewing Rot early next week, before we start our stocking stuffers, guys. So get your picks in for movies you'd like to hear covered. Also, word to the wise, make sure you purchase Rot.
Yeah,
Because you're going to want to
don't
watch
rent.
this one more than once.
Oh.
Believe you
Yes.
me, you're going to want to watch this one more than once.
And rate and review, guys. Rate and review. Apparently that's the big thing that Amazon looks for. Apparently.
Well, now we know. Everyone, leave that rating and review. Thank you very much, Andrew. We hope to see you again soon, man.
Same to you guys.
Bye.